Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gig Cooks. Now, I know what you're all thinking. What the heck is that piddly ass little thing on Gig's face? Actually, I am growing this. It was Erica's idea, and otherwise, I don't know if I would attempt to grow a mustache like this, but I think it's pretty funny. My mom just told me she likes it, so thanks, Mom. Now, it's been a long time since I've made a Gig Cooks episode, probably about like 3 years, where I made cheese fondue. I'll link it so you guys can check that out. That is still a very useful recipe, and I'm gonna have cheese fondue one day soon. One of the great things about fall, I love cheese fondue. Now, today we're gonna be making, or gonna be trying to make, because I've never made it before, pasta from scratch. Now, I said pasta because I am a trained actor to speak in an American accent, so that's the American way of saying it. If I were to say it in my native tongue, I would say pasta. Time to make some pasta. Like I said, I've never made pasta before. Pasta. Although once I do vaguely remember my mom making it from scratch when I was like 4, and we had one of those like pasta makers where you like put it through and you rotate it and it gets squeezed out thinner and thinner, and then you can cut it into like noodles. I don't have one of those, and I think it would be more fun to make it without. So I'm gonna just do everything by hand. I'm following a recipe, but as far as I know and what I've learned so far about pasta, which is probably very little, is that you kind of have to play it by ear a little bit. In pasta, there is like 4 main ingredients. There's flour, there's eggs, there's salt, and there's olive oil. The olive oil apparently is like kind of optional, but I'm gonna use it anyways. There's a few schools of thought on what kind of flour you're supposed to use. So I'm gonna be using 00 flour, they call it. I happen to have it because my dad really likes making pizza, so he makes it with this like 00 flour. You don't have to use this 00 flour. Like, I was actually originally planning on just using all-purpose flour, and then after doing some research, I found out that like there's 3 different kinds of flour you can use for pasta. One of them being all-purpose, the other being semolina, and the other one being the 00, which is what I have on hand, so I thought I'd use the 00. We'll see how this turns out. I'm pretty excited because I love pasta, and I think it being homemade would just make it like 10 times more delicious. I'm gonna be a little bold today. I'm gonna make noodles, which is what was originally planned, was noodles, but I think I'm gonna try and make a few bow ties, because I think that would be fun. So let's get started with the ingredients. I've got this flour. This is the 00 flour. It's in Italian, I think. Then I have to go get eggs. Got some eggs. Got some olive oil. Salt. I got this little guy with some salt. So we'll start with the flour. That seems simple enough. I chose a great day to wear a black shirt when I'm gonna be playing with flour. Okay, so most recipes call for about 2 cups of flour. The thing I'm following right now says 2.5, but I'll just start with 2, just to be safe, because you can always add more. Seems to be the rule of thumb kind of thing. If it doesn't seem quite the right consistency or whatever, you just add more. Okay, so I've got 1 cup here. Most of the research that I've done says you just make it on the counter, so this is gonna be fun and messy. What I like about making things like bread now with pasta is you get to use your hands a lot. That's really fun. Okay, so that's 1 cup. That's 2. So I might add more. The main thing to do is to make what they call a well. So you kind of like make a little mountain and then you make a well. This is to let the eggs sit so that you can mix it up without making a huge mess, at least in the beginning. Okay, now I need 4 eggs. Got my eggs here. Crack them in one at a time. I've always been told that if you crack eggs on a flat surface, it'll make more of like a straight, definitive line. I've had hit and miss luck with that. 1. Oh, wow, okay. 2. 3. I should have made the well bigger. 1 more. It feels like too many eggs, but I'm just gonna do what the recipe says. 4, okay. But now what you're supposed to do is take a fork and just sort of beat up the eggs in the well. And the purpose of the well is that it's surrounded by flour, so you're kind of, as you're beating up the eggs, you're incorporating the flour. So we'll see. I feel like this is gonna be really bad. Already gonna make a mess. So what I'm doing as I'm beating the eggs, I'm pushing a little bit more flour in from the wall of the well, I guess. I'm having a little bit spill over the edge here, but I think it should be okay. Oh no, it spilled over. At this point, it's just like a huge mess, and it's just spilling over the edge, and it's just sort of getting all over the place. But what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like use my hands to try and form the dough. Wow, okay, this is a huge mess. Hopefully this makes delicious pasta. If not, then I'll try again. Okay, I'm just gonna get in there with my hands. Okay, wearing all black was definitely a mistake. So at this point, I just realized I forgot to put the olive oil in. So what I'm gonna do is, now that it's still like a really shaggy dough, I'm gonna try and get as much of it off my hands as possible so I don't lose too much. And I'm gonna try and just put a little bit of olive oil in, add a little bit of flour because it definitely needs more flour, and try and incorporate it all. Okay, it took a few minutes to get all that off my hands, but now I'm gonna add some of that olive oil, like I said, just a little bit. It only calls for like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, something like that, so just a bit. That might even be too much. And then it definitely needs more flour, so that's what I'll be adding. It's just a bit more flour. It's a pretty big mess on the table. I'll keep the flour nearby. Okay, now I'm just gonna get back into it with my hands because some flour on my shirt, because I gotta try and form this into a dough. So as far as I understand, I've got to work this dough to be kind of like a smooth dough. Like right now it's pretty like rough on the outside. So I've got to keep kneading it for a while, like 10 minutes until it's smooth. And it's still a little bit like kind of sticky. So there's a bunch of different kneading techniques. You just got to keep kind of like folding it into itself. It's a bit of a workout, which is good because I haven't been to the gym in a while. Okay, so I've been kneading it for probably about like 6 or 7 minutes now, and it's already a lot smoother of a dough. I'm gonna keep kneading it for a few more minutes. Okay, there it is. That's my dough. Make sure you slap your dough real hard, just to make sure it's, I think apparently what you're looking for is when you poke it for it to kind of like bounce back, so let's test that. No, it didn't bounce out back. Let's keep kneading it. Oh yeah, it's got it now. Okay, now that we've got this elastic dough that's smooth and you can slap it, we're gonna let it rest for 30 minutes. Because I slapped it pretty hard, it needs to recover. I'll be checking back with you guys in 30 minutes. I think what I'm supposed to do is wrap it up in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge, so just leave it be. Try that. My dough has been resting for some time, and now it's time to roll it out and make the actual pasta. I'm supposed to take some flour the surface a little bit, I think. Just a little bit. Doesn't stick. And now I think the only thing that's left is to just roll it out. I know a little bit about, you're supposed to laminate it, which means as you roll it out thinner and thinner, you're gonna fold it into thirds. I'm gonna do a little bit of that, but I don't know how super important it is. So I'm only going to do a couple of laminations, folding it like a letter, I guess. And then rolling it out. So at this point, the trick is to try and get it as thin as possible and as uniform of a shape as possible so that it's easy to cut. So I'm just gonna keep adding some flour to the surface so it doesn't stick. And just keep rolling it out thin. Almost there. I guess this is where the pasta machine would come in handy. Definitely very elastic. It keeps trying to come back. Okay. Got a big piece, thin piece of dough here. I don't know, is it thin enough? It's not quite thin enough. That's the thing, it's so big. I might have to cut it in half. I'm gonna cut it in half to sort of give myself smaller pieces to work with. I'm just gonna set this aside. I'm gonna try and roll this out a little bit more. Almost there. Very close. The reason why we want to make it really thin is because once you cook it in the water, it puffs up quite a bit. Well, that's what I've read. I've never actually made this before. But alright, I'm gonna call that as thin enough. So now what I'm gonna do is make really long noodles. Fold it this way a few times before I cut it. And more flour again. Always lots of flour. Okay, I'm just gonna cut the very ends off to make them uniform, but I still might use that as like a noodle. Maybe, we'll see. I'm gonna make pretty thin-ish noodles. Oh shoot, they're sticking together. I think next time I do this, I'm definitely gonna do a little bit more flour when I make the dough. Risk the edges sticking, I'm gonna do kind of longer, which is a little bit more difficult to do, but okay, and then I think you want to pretty liberally cover them in flour and sort of toss them around. These are actually pretty thick. They're probably too thick, but I'm sure it's fine for my first batch of noodles. So I'm gonna set these aside over here until I'm ready to cook them. Now I'm gonna start boiling a pot of water so I can cook these noodles. And while the water is boiling, I'm gonna try and be creative and make something other than noodles. Okay, I've got a pot of water on behind me, getting ready to boil. I've got my noodles here, ready to be cooked, but they can just take a breather while I attempt to roll out some more dough. Thinner this time, because those noodles seem a bit too thick, especially in the middle there. So I'm trying to make this more even. Almost so I can see the texture of the counter through the dough. Just to be extra careful. I'll put some more flour down again. I'm starving, so like this will be my reward. So this time I roll it out a lot thinner. I kind of screwed it up around this edge here, but I'm gonna ignore that. And I'm gonna cut off the edges, and I'm gonna try and make bow ties. So we'll see. Okay, I'm trying to make it look as good as possible. So now I'm gonna do like rectangles. Starting to get a little wonky. Gonna throw away this one. That's okay, I'll get it later. All right, now I wanna make, I'm just gonna try and do them all at once. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay, so I'm gonna take these like little rectangles and try and squish them in the middle to make kind of like bow tie. I don't know how well it'll hold up in the boiling water, but we'll see. Well, that's probably like one of my best ones so far.
I'm gonna do something crazy.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Ooh, I wanna do some of those too. Or I'm gonna do a long one lengthwise. We're gonna have like a whole bunch of different kinds of pasta.
Yeah.
That's not gonna stay together. What else could I do? Ooh, you're so smart.
I don't know what the hell this is. It's a new type of pasta.
Yeah. Okay, the water's boiling, so I'm gonna throw the noodles in. Grab this big nest of noodles, very thick. So I'm just gonna let those cook for just like a few minutes because fresh pasta only takes like 1 to 3 minutes to cook.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Never mind the like hour that it took to make the dough.
That doesn't count.
No. And the cool thing is we can always just freeze these if we don't want to eat them right now, and then we have fresh pasta whenever we want. That's a really sad one. All right, let's check on the pasta. All right, it's already bubbling quite a bit. Give it a little bit of extra time just because it's pretty thick noodles. But they're almost done. The way to test them and see if they're done is to just try them.
Just eat them.
It's still quite chewy. You wanna try it?
Sure. Oh wow. That's yummy.
But it tastes like pasta, so that's good.
It's a good sign.
This is the most beautiful one. All right, so I think the noodles are done cooking, so I'm gonna strain them and we'll dish them up and then we'll give a verdict. I can really see how not thin I thought I had it. Like, I thought I had it way thinner, and I thought I had cut the noodles in more of a uniform shape, and now that's obviously not true. So let's give it a taste test. We like our pasta pretty simple. We just have like some butter, salt, and cheese. First of all, it tastes really good. The noodles are definitely too thick.
I like the whole thing.
But the chewiness is like also a good thing. I can tell you now though, I'm gonna be making pasta like this a lot more. I'm really impressed. Like, even though like I made a lot of mistakes and it's my first time doing it, it's really good. Like, homemade definitely is always better. What's your verdict? What do you think? All I get is a thumbs up.
Oh, it's so good.
It's really good.
You gotta stop eating it.
But anyways, I'm gonna enjoy it and eat this right now. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of Gig Cooks. It's been a long time. If you guys attempt to make this, give me a comment below and let me know how it turned out. And as always, you're awesome. Keep being you. Thanks for watching.